Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Absurdism. Hello everyone, I'm author Arl Raintree. This is Reels and Reads, where I give honest reviews and occasional spoilers. If you're new here, I did a review of the foreign film The Stranger a couple of months ago, and I can tell you that that's how I knew that this is the year for foreign films. It was a beautiful, flawless black and white film, and it was based on the book The Stranger by Albert Camus. Well, you guys kept telling me, read the book, read the book, read the book, so I did. Now, right off the bat, I can tell you that this is an absurdist story. Monsieur Meursault, my French is pretty bad, Monsieur Meursault is an absurdist, although he doesn't call himself that. He lives in the moment, he sees no meaning in life, and he does not seek to find meaning in life, which is what existentialists do. He's just there for the moment. But there are times that he's a little bit hypocritical, and I'll cover that later. But that basic premise is the same in the novel as it is in the film. In fact, throughout this review, I can tell you just ahead of time, the film is a flawless adaptation of this novel, for those who are wondering. And there were moments where I felt the film did an even better job than the book, but when you consider the fact that the book is being made without any compunction for whether or not it's going to be a film in the future, whether or not people are going to want to see a visual version of it, I think it too is flawless. It's just a slightly different spice being used to tell the story. Now, I'm going to assume that most people who are seeing this review have not watched the film, and I don't think it matters in what order you consume the media. If you saw the film before the book, you're still going to get a lot out of the book. And if you read the book before the film, you're definitely going to get a lot out of the film. That being said, it's probably better to read the book because the book is a lot softer than the film, meaning it doesn't have to entertain you visually. So every word, every scene is the embodiment of absurdism. And you might feel a little bit bored trying to read the book after having seen the film, which is far more dynamic. You have acting involved and visual effects. Well, nothing special, but you have visual imagery that helps drive home what the director is trying to say. Whereas with this book, the author isn't trying to drive home any imagery. It is just merely an example, an exercise in absurdism. Throughout this book, you just keep hoping that Monsieur Meursault is going to seek meaning in life, find a purpose, care about something, just like the characters do. Now, in general, that doesn't make this necessarily existentialism. I think that we all have a bit of existentialism within us. We've all got a little touch of it because we always look for the meaning in something. We see certain numbers on a clock, that must mean something. You both say the same thing at the same time, that must mean something. Twins, they were in the womb at the same time, that must mean something. We as human beings are always searching for patterns and meaning in things. So when you read this novel, you want something more. You get a little frustrated with Meursault because, how do you not feel this? How do you not feel that? And there are moments where people were kind of wasting his time and you want him to say, get out of my apartment. And that's, for example, the scene with the elderly man with his dog. In both the film and the novel, Meursault doesn't really want to spend time with him. However, in the film version, you can kind of pick up on his facial expressions, but you're not 100% sure if he gives a damn about talking to this old man about his dog. But in the book, we're hearing Meursault's thoughts. He does not give a damn about this man and his dog, but ultimately decides, I don't have anything to do, so why not? And in that regard, I feel like it's a bit hypocritical because absurdism tells you not to waste your time, to basically live in defiance no matter what. Well, the human code, if you will, the social contract says that if someone's grieving something, even if it's a dog, that you want to make time for them, even though you kind of don't care. But he does that despite the fact that he feels like time is precious and he doesn't want to waste it. In both the book and the film, again, they are identical for the most part, with slight differences in little bits of the scenes, but not enough to make it different. So spoiler alert for the ending. If you haven't read the book, it is exactly the same as the film. It's just portrayed differently. We have the same ending where you want him to fight for himself in court, but he figures, what's the point? It's the same thing in the film. But the only time we see him with any true emotion, as with the film, is when the priest keeps trying to get him to believe in an afterlife, believe in a God, and find a meaning in life. Whereas he says, I don't believe in God. There is no meaning to life. You're not going to convince me with what little time I have. And I'm quite insulted that you're wasting what's left of my precious time. Let me enjoy what I have left. Let me live in defiance of the fact that I know my life will end by a certain date and time. And yet that's a direct contradiction to what he does when it comes to the elderly man wasting his time with his dog, his neighbor wasting his time asking him to write these letters. It's sort of like something to do. So there's a little bit of hypocritical behavior there that isn't quite highlighted in the film because he doesn't say how he's feeling in the film. But in the book, we know exactly what his thoughts are with every single situation that took place in the film. Most people I know discovered this book in high school English class, and if you did, you had an excellent English teacher. I was stuck reading Huckleberry Finn and what is it, The Song of Solomon and The Bluest Eye, and as an adult, I appreciate those last two books, but it was always the same books, and it always had the N-word in it, and it was always about slavery. I mean, I was so sick of English class when I was growing up. The Scarlet Letter, it was... So if your English teacher had you reading this, you were very blessed. You were very lucky that your teacher thought outside the box. I know a lot of people who didn't discover this book until college. Personally, I'm just now discovering this book, and I have long since been out of college. I would have loved to have read this as a high schooler. It definitely would have increased my deepened my critical reasoning, my critical thinking. By the time I got to college and I had to take philosophy 101, part of my general ed requirements, I probably would have done much better in philosophy class had I been exposed to the concept of absurdism. All I knew about was existentialism, and I think it would have changed my outlook on life. I think this book is that poignant that it definitely would have changed my outlook on life at an age when most of us are still trying to find meaning in life, still trying to figure out what we want to do and what we want to be. So of course I recommend this to high schoolers, young adults, fresh college students, or even people freshly out of college. And I also recommend it for people who are having that midlife crisis, or they're approaching the concept of a midlife crisis. It just gives you an alternate perspective on life and another way to see things. So I think that getting this book in the hands of teenagers, young adults, and people who have the potential of going through some sort of midlife crisis, or just struggling with the quest for finding meaning in life, this may actually help them kind of settle down a bit and lessen their potential thanatophobia. That being said, having watched the film and read the book, I give this book 5 stars. It stands alone as a work of art, but it also reinforces my decision to give the film 5 stars as well. The film is just extra sauce, extra flavor on what was already shown in the book. Let me know what you thought of the book The Stranger by Albert Camus in comparison to the film, and come back and let me know what you thought about it. I'm interested in having this discussion. Once again, my name is author R.L. Raintree. This is Reels and Reads, and thank you so much for watching.